Do you need a great cartoonist? This is the Outside Gate with Steve Hall on the L4 Media Network, where we talk US Moto and anywhere the conversation goes. So if you're watching what I do and following along, you'll see the logo that I have. That is the dirt bike riding, the Suzuki riding kangaroo, and that whole picture with Ayers Rock and then Anaheim Stadium in the distance and all that sort of thing. That's this guy I got here right now, Curt Evans from Down Up Design Merch. How are you, man?
Good, Aussie Steve.
That's it, man. We've been friends for a while, man, and I never thought about getting you on the show earlier on, and then it sort of clicked a while ago. Geez, I need to get Curt onto a show, man. So you're a long-time cartoonist, man.
Yeah.
And you've had a interesting life. You've worked for some magazines in the past, and you know a lot of people. You grew up in California around dirt bikes and surfing and all this sort of stuff, man. So let's talk a little bit about your life, man. Yeah, and he's out. He's just been doing some yard work, like like all blokes have to do from time to time.
Haven't showered.
That's all right. No worries. That's all right. We can't smell you through the screen, man. So it doesn't matter if you're sweaty from yard work, dude. Hey, tell us a little bit about your business nowadays. Before we get into young Curt, let's talk a little bit about your business nowadays and give a bit of a good old plug for Down Up Design.
Okay. So I've been doing motocross cartoons forever, and so a couple years ago, I just started doing it more frequently, and I left my regular 9 to 5 job only because I got old enough, not because the cartooning was that great. And I kind of really focused on it. And then I got in a pretty bad, I was on my dual sport and got rear-ended by a car. I hate using that term, but
Yeah.
and I had a little recovery time. So I just kind of, Down Up used to be the name of my mountain bike race promotion company a long time ago back in Hawaii. And then I turned it into like a mountain bike clothing and sticker and t-shirt company a long time ago. And then it, slowly faded away. So I kind of revived it. And so now I have a whole line of t-shirts again and stickers, but even kind of cooler, I do a lot of coloring books and board games and jigsaw puzzles that are a good way to get kids off their devices. So that it didn't start out that way, but that's kind of where I'm heading. And my main thing is doing cartoons for other people, like race promoters or teams, or just for your website, or a lot of mini moms and mini dads have me do one of their kid. But I got a lot of competition from all those Moto Tune scammers out there. It's the most random thing in the world that they pick my tiniest niche of a industry to go crazy. And hey, you want your Moto Tune? You want yourself on a tune? And they send out spam daily.
Mm.
I'm a little bit of a victim of that, but it's all good.
Yeah, I know we've talked about that before, man, and it's I get it has slowed down, man. But when I first got my sort of my bigger Instagram page where I put all the vintage stuff going a few years ago, I'd get 2 of them a week.
Oh yeah,
Dudes wanting to sell me an AI or however it's done thing of their, just this basic sort of thing that I could probably do myself, like to me it's I
yeah.
got no interest in it. Like when I've gotten you did obviously my logo and you did a really cool cartoon for one of my best mates of him on his bike for his 50th birthday. Things like that. The fact that you've researched it, spent time and actually used your art and your creativity to do it is what makes it cool. That's what makes it cool. The effort that's gone into it. So yeah, I don't get the old ones where they just like I paid this lady from some lady from Europe who specializes in drawing people's pets. I paid her to for one of our old dogs. And it's just amazing. Like she drew my wife with the dog and all that, and she spent a heap of time on it and all that sort of thing. And it was amazing, that sort of thing. So, and Yeah, the old, like, anyone can probably download some software and just punch out a cartoonized version
That's
of
what
them on their bike with an extra big helmet. Like it's
they'll have the huge heads. And it's like the same style, and like when the one account rips off enough people, they just change their name. But AI is going to change all that too, which I'm totally on board with. I think some of the stuff on AI, it looks amazing. So I'm an artist. I got to use that as a tool. That's kind of my job. But it's freed me up as an artist a little bit, because since I hand draw all my stuff now, like the more cobby I make it look, and kind of the rougher, it doesn't have to be as polished. If I make it look too good, it looks like everyone else's. So I just go for the customization. I think is capturing the person or the bike or whatever. So that's why I like to do the research, because I want to capture the essence of something.
That's right. Like my mate was blown away that even the tattoo on his arm looked right. Like, 'cause I just sent you a few photos of him in a t-shirt or whatever, and I didn't have many photos of him on his old CR. Funnily enough, he's the guy that's always got the camera, so there's not many photos of him.
Right.
And he was like, "Wow, look at the tattoos on my arm. That's all right." And that, like, he loved it. So it was, and that sort of thing. That's what makes it meaningful. It's like getting someone to, the old days where they'd get people to paint a picture of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you take a photo, it captures the image, but you do a painting and it captures the person. I don't know.
Yes. Now I agree, man. I agree. Like, I certainly don't understand art when it gets like weird art. I don't get that. But
Yeah.
when it's really sort of talent, a lot of talent and that sort of thing, like especially some of these dudes who, they you see videos of them where they just do this wild mess, and then but they've got this picture in their mind, and then it turns into this amazing thing. Like, there's one in particular you've probably seen, man, where it's this dude, and I think he's set up in a park, and the big canvas is on a turntable, it swivels, and he just does all this crazy, messy sort of stuff, and in the end, it's two rock stars. I think it's David Bowie and Freddie Mercury, I think, or maybe David Bowie and Mick Jagger, something like that. And you turn it around and it turns from one to the other and things like that, and stuff like that, man. That's amazing. The artists that just do punch a hole in the bottom of a paint can and swing it off a rope, and I could do that. Like, I don't get those ones, but they still look cool, I guess. But yeah,
you just can't get it in galleries and sell it for $50,000. So art's not just the art.
Yeah,
It's
I
pretty
think
cool.
it's
Master's paintings in a gallery or something. You stand away and it all looks, like awesome, like you expect. But then you get up close and you see the little dabs of paint, and you're like, how did they make that into such a cool image? So
yeah. No, and then there's it's a different sort of world, I guess. People that love that sort of stuff, they see things that the regular man doesn't see. But I certainly love cartoons, man. Dude, so what I know you were involved in magazines. So which magazines, and did you do cartoons for them, or were you doing other things for them back then?
So my big claim to fame is I did work at Motocross Action magazine, and not only did cartoons for them, but I also was like wrote stories, took photos, did interviews, got to ride the test bikes and test them, and like I was like the low man on the totem pole. So I get to go to the factory and pick up the bike, and I was just an average Joe. So I was so excited, and I was like about 18, 19, right? I was just a punk kid. And then I take him to the track, whatever. And then everyone on the, I get to be with all the MXA dudes and Pete Malley and Gary Ogden, all the test riders. And then after it was all done, I'd get to load it in my truck and go home, clean it, take it home. But I'd have it in the garage. And a lot of times I'd just wait till everyone went home and just ride it for the rest of the day, because I was allowed to. It's not like I was cheating, but so I got to ride all kinds of bikes. But what really started me was, so when I was in high school, I started working for this newspaper. It was like it's called Southern California Motocross Newspaper, and it was a Southern California thing. It was kind of the alternative to Cycle News, but it was all about the locals. So it was like everybody kind of like dug it, right? So I did a weekly cartoon for that while I was in high school. And once I got paid for drawing motocross cartoons and got to go to the races and got a little press pass, dude, I was like, all right, this is where I'm heading in life. So I did that for a while, and then I went to college at UC Irvine. It's down in Southern California, SoCal this, SoCal that. And then I just got a call from Motocross Action, and I think at first it was a phone call and then a letter. So that's how old school I am. And they said, yeah, come. We want you to join the paper. We love your cartoons. We see you love the sport. You know all the little nuances. And I quit school like that day. Started doing it. It was fun, and I didn't really have much experience writing, but I just I did it. Like if I have to learn to write to get this job, man, I'm gonna write. And same as photography, I've been taking a lot of Super 8 of all those races back when I had the press pass for that newspaper. So I've got all this Super 8 footage that I've converted it to DVD, but I haven't done YouTubes, and it's kind of like my life goal thing right now. I'm trying to get someone to help me because I just don't want to learn all the software. Yeah. I'm too busy drawing. It's like my time's more valuable drawing than I kind of need someone to babysit me with it. So anyone out there, let's do it.
Yeah, we need to see that stuff.
All these CMC races, Marty Smith, Croft, Galen Mosier, all these dudes. Got tons of Super 8. And I'd have perspectives that no one else had because I had the little press pass so I could go anywhere on the track. And I did it just like a lot back in those days that Stu Peters ran CMC, and their weekend races were like mini nationals. Like they not only get the guys, but guys like Jim Cook's Factory Kawasaki and Jimmy Weinert and all kinds of guys that were sometimes from out of the area would come up and show up at those races. Not to mention all the really good SoCal guys, Warren Reed, Rex Staten, everyone that you read about that was from California would race all those CMC races. So I got all that footage that I need to bust out.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm gonna. I've already got a few people in mind that might be able to help you with that. So I'm going to be reaching out for sure because I want to see it. Stu Peters, man. I didn't know a lot about Stu Peters. I knew of the CNC, but I didn't sort of know the man behind it. But
did you listen to the Whiskey
podcast? Yeah, it was excellent.
Yeah, really good.
Excellent, man. I'm a big fan of Ping's interviews, and that was a good one, man. What an interesting guy, man. Especially his early days. That he really had me captivated. The early days in Europe and that sort of thing.
And imagine what he went through in those days and language barrier. Dude, that guy is a true. I remember he just said I can't remember. I don't want to butcher it, but he had some classic little thing. He goes, "You just work forward." Every problem he had, he goes, "You just work forward," and I'm like, "Wow, that's the best attitude in the world."
It is, man. Yeah, it is a good attitude. Yeah. Not easy for everyone to do, but it is a good attitude. Yeah.
What a hero.
Yeah, man. It's we're getting way back here. Like my knowledge of a sport, I guess, it predates my age because I got into it in the 80s, but straight away I was fascinated with the 70s and beyond. Earlier, right to right to guys like Dave Bickers on his British bike, and stuff like that. Like I'd research right to the very first ever world champions and all this sort of stuff, and just really, really interested in all that stuff. I love from the moment they put a somewhat of a knobby tire on a bike, I'm into it. That's what really grabs me. So.
And I started racing in 72, but I was never a pro. So I've always just happened to be like one way or another in the industry. I got up to CMC like intermediate at one point, and that's like to me was that was a big deal. But yeah, I've never been the best rider, but I've been lucky to get to ride lots of bikes and know lots of people in the sport and industry. And then jump ahead a little, but I did work at JT Racing for a while. And I worked with Marty Tripes at the retail store they had there, and that guy is like such a good human and so funny, greatest person, dude. So that was super good experience. Got to meet all kinds of riders then, and so
Was
that
that would have been yeah? So what sort of years were you
was,
working with Marty at JT?
I worked at JT from like 80, around 83, maybe late 82 to the end of 85, because I know that date because that's when I moved to Hawaii. I left Southern California and moved to Hawaii. And then like right before I left, the other kind of big thing that I did was at that point I was getting into mountain biking. And I helped with my friend Helen Smith and Byron Friday and Brian Skinner, because I want to give them all credit. But I was basically I was the main guy. No. But we put on a mountain bike exhibition race at the LA Coliseum, like in the middle of the Supercross. So because my friend Helen worked for Mike Goodwin at the time, and so I had this brain. I'd already seen that race they did at the USGP. They used to, at the outdoor, they do like a 2-lap race, and I did it that year. And so I talked to him like, let's do it at a Supercross, because people didn't know about mountain bikes in 1985. So we did it, and it was John Tomac's first professional win, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a big circle, you know.
So that was the first Tomac Supercross win, in fact, then,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
first pro mountain bike win, actually, for John Tomac, and then he went on to be like the best ever. But before that, he was a BMX kid, and he came over. He was Robbie Roop's, I think, brother-in-law, and got to know him from a couple downhill races we were doing, and he signed up for the race. I mean, in those days, obviously, there's no social media. It was just handing out flyers to guys at the races, like, "Hey, we're putting on this race at the Supercross intermission. Come do it, and you get in for, you know." Yeah, they had to pay an entry fee. One of the classic things about it too was so they would jump off the peristyle like they just had at the Super Motocross. They would come and jump off the peristyle, but I put up like an extra $50 bounty so they would jump extra far. And some BMX kid, dude, he was all gassed out from the first lap, so he just sat out there and got his breath and then just hucked it off that thing. I had a couple friends standing there to see who went the furthest, dude, and he went like about 20 feet further than anybody. It's pretty sick.
That's awesome, man. That's really, really like very, very early days of mountain bikes, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I worked for Motocross Action in 76 and 77. So like I'm kind of an old fart, obviously.
Yeah. I can remember the very first kid at school turning up with a mountain bike, and he was the kid whose dad owned the bike shop, of course, you know. So and that would have been about 88.
Uh-huh.
And he turned up with a mountain bike, and the brand was Shogun. That
Oh
was
yeah.
that was probably the first big mountain bike brand in Australia, was Shogun, and it was just like every kid wanted a Shogun, and not many kids had them because they're expensive. You know, most of us were all still, because us kids, man, we'd be all on like 10-speed races, you know, and but we'd be riding them out the bush anyway, and just smashing wheels and smashing forks, and like I remember, you know, I'd buy secondhand 10-speed races just so I had spare wheels and forks, because I just keep smashing them. You know, we'd be jumping them and that anyway with the curl bars and all that sort of thing. Like it's all you had.
Yeah. Yeah, like, you know, like I was part of the whole thing, like in the beginning with BMX too. Like, you know, when we just had Schwinn Stingrays and we were just putting 10-speed seats on them and, you know, motorcycle grips, and we thought we were so cool. But like my very first mountain bike was in 1980, and we had to get like a cruiser frame and build it up from there, you know, and do everything ourselves. This is before Specialized came out and everything. So that's when I started, right? I was really riding mountain bikes super early because I was a motocrosser, and I went and worked at this. So you said I surfed and stuff, but so California surfers will relate to this. I got to work at this place called Hollister Ranch. It's a super exclusive 8 miles of coastline above Santa Barbara that you can't get in unless you're ultra wealthy. And I worked for Jim Arness, the guy from Gunsmoke, Marshall Dillon. I was like the caretaker on his ranch. And so I got to have a pass to go in there, but they had all these rules because it was all these rich people. And one of them was no motorcycles. And I had just finished working at Motocross Action and I was going crazy. So I took a cruiser bike, just a regular beach cruiser, and started riding it on all those fire roads at the ranch. And I had this thing like a Sturmey Archer 3-speed where you kick back to switch the gears, like you put on the brakes. And I thought I was Joe Cool till one day I saw this guy in Isla Vista. It's a college town of Santa Barbara, but he rode by on a real mountain bike. And I just went, oh, I turned around and chased him down. And I like accosted him like, where'd you get this? How do you make this? And his name was Rasta J, and he ended up building us the bikes. And so I was like a motocross guy that was frustrated and had to ride a bicycle because they didn't allow motorcycles. And that's how it all started.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. So was California a bit of a did mountain bikes sort of grow out of California then?
Yeah, the traditional thing is it all grew in the Bay Area, Northern California. Really, Southern California was like kind of like for surfing and skateboarding and motocross and BMX. But it was actually guys, a bunch of hippie dudes like Charlie Kelly and Gary Fisher, Otis and Otis. What's it? Guy Otis or whatever. I forget because it was my cat's name. We used to call her. Anyways. They all kind of started and they were doing these races at a downhill called Repack, I think I'm going to probably mess it up, but I'm going to say probably around 75. But we were unaware of it. And they were all like road cyclists. So they were strong. They knew how to ride uphill and everything, but they were taking the full Schwinn Excelsiors. They were bikes from like the 40s. And beefing them all up, but they were good mechanics and they putting gears on them and everything. And that's the traditional way that mountain bike started. There's a great book by Charlie Kelly called Fat Tire Flyer and tells the whole history of it. It's fascinating because they were just a bunch of wild hippies ripping downhill on these bikes. And the reason they called the race the Repack is because they had, drum brakes and the grease would get so hot that it would be smoking, they'd all their wheel bearings would be fried at the end of the race.
They had drum brakes, yeah?
Wow. Yeah, in the very beginning, in the back.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, crazy. Yeah. Man, I've never done, never really done any proper mountain biking, because obviously I cycled as a kid and I had a mountain bike but where I live, it's very flat, so there's no mountains to mountain bike. And then when I did live in the mountains, that was when I was all I wanted to do was ride dirt bikes, and I wasn't interested in mountain bikes. And it's in my later years where I live back where it is flat, and I decided I better actually get fit and not be a big fat guy anymore, that I got into cycling. So I haven't had the opportunity to ever really properly mountain bike, but it's, if I ever, we are actually going to move a bit closer to some mountains fairly soon. So that'll be good. I do look forward to doing a little bit of it, because I think I certainly love road cycling.
Well, I know you just did a ride. I watched your adventures.
Yeah, man, I do road cycling, and I get off the beaten path a fair bit doing my, when I say my road cycling's not really road cycling, but I can't call it mountain biking either. Not sure what you call it. Adventure cycling, is probably the term you'd use for me. Yeah, man, but actual proper mountain biking looks like super good fun. Yeah.
When it very first came out, nobody knew what it was. It was almost the best because you could like kind of trespass and ride all these trails, and nobody knew what, like, people like the reaction be so weird, like, what the heck? Because you'd be just ripping on this bicycle downhill and climbing, and people would be like, how'd you get back here with bicycles? When it very first came out, so we kind of had the little heads up. We rode all kinds of trails. There's no off limits, and now it's in the Olympics. That's crazy.
That's kind of the beauty of mountain bikes too, even for guys that love to ride dirt bikes, man. Like it's that sometimes it's just the simplicity of it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when you don't have a lot of time, you don't need a lot of time to you just grab
Yeah, yeah.
your you grab
Suit
your
up.
bicycle from the shed, you throw your helmet on, and you out the door in 5 minutes, and you can knock out an hour, and it's a huge amount of exercise, and it's cost you like nothing, and it's over and done with quick, and in the time that it would take to load your dirt bike and unload it, so
Yeah, yeah.
um,
But the thing about it I like too is in that hour you could cover a lot of ground too and see a lot of stuff, because I kind of say it's a workout. You get to be in nature and you get to moto, like
yeah,
coming, you get some extreme sport in it too, because when you're coming down you're going for it. But so it's kind of those three things. And like it's kind of weird, like my other thing besides dirt bikes and mountain bikes that I like a lot is bird watching. It seems the opposite,
yeah,
right? But it's just about being in nature. Or I tell people I'm actually a mammal watcher, but I had too many disappointing outings. I'd rather see a wolverine or a bear or a fox. But yeah, I like bird watching. I can even hear them on my dual sport. I've already learned stop and then look, because it's
yeah. Oh yeah. I know you're into the bird watching. That you've even done some cartoons of birds and that sort of thing that
yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen. Yeah.
The colonel's next.
Yeah, that's it. So for those that don't know, I reckon most people that listen to me know who the Colonel is, but the
It is
Colonel's he's my rooster, my pet rooster, and he's very much he's a character. That's for sure. Yeah, very aggressive.
world famous.
He is world famous. Yeah,
I,
he is world famous rooster.
a
Yeah,
big,
he's got 3 girlfriends now, so he's a
uh,
he's a
oh,
family man.
uh, I remember you telling the names, but one of them's Brittany, right? Is that right?
Yeah. Brittany, Dolly, and Gaga are the names of the
That's
hens that we got. Yeah. Because Colonel came home, man, as a school project. Like, because
oh,
we always wanted chickens because we had a lot of eggs and we just like the idea of having chickens. We're not on a farm, but we live in a small country town, but we're not on a farm. And my daughter, I don't know, I think it was like a seventh grade, as you would say. Um, in science they raise chickens, they hatch chicken eggs. And say if your parents let you, you can take one home. And we'll, oh yeah, bring one home, and then we'll get some more hens, and then we'll have eggs. And then so so growing up, we didn't even know it was a he. We just knew it was a chicken because they don't look much different when they're little. Well, not to the untrained eye anyway.
they're
And
just
then yeah, and then all of a sudden he just grew a lot and started making noise over the very short span of time. And we were like, oh, this one's not going to lay eggs. So then he just became a pet.
cool.
Yeah. But I'm like you, man. Like, even when I'm out on my adventures on my push bike, as we say, um, I see an animal on the side of the road, anything interesting, man. Like, I'm on the
Yeah,
brakes and I'm,
yeah.
even anything, man. Even like snakes, anything, man. Like,
And they're
um, echidnas, wombats, all this thing. I love echidnas. Echidnas are probably my favorite. I always stop and say good day to them. They're echidnas. If the US listeners don't know what they are, then yeah, just look up ECH IDNA. Look up one of them. They're a really cool little animal. They're a mammal that lays eggs, and
yeah,
they're covered in spikes.
yeah, like a mini porcupine, but not quite as pokey,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Their spikes are really thick. They're almost like
Blunt. Are do they go
no,
even?
they're very sharp on the end, but they are very thick. Like if you do run one over in your car, they'll go through your tire.
I didn't know that.
They'll go through a steel belted radial, man. Yeah, I've seen it. Which is They don't get run over a lot. They're pretty reclusive, you know.
Yeah.
Kangaroos and wombats are the buggers that get run over a lot. But but the older echidnas, like you. I mean, I've picked them up without gloves, but it hurts. You know, like it hurts. You really need gloves, or if you got a jumper on, you pull your sleeves down over your hands, and that sort of, you know.
But they're little, right? They're kind of smaller.
They're little, yeah. They're about the size of a football. Yeah. Yeah.
I better do my homework.
Yeah. No, they're only little, yeah. And what they do, man, is if you they've got long claws, and they burrow themselves in. They dig really quick, and in their danger, they'll burrow themselves in, and their claws sort of lock into the dirt, and there's no way you picking one up once he's burrowed in. So all that's left out of the ground is the spikes sticking up. So they're cool, man. Really cool. Yeah. That's it, man. I'd love. Yeah, it's funny, man. In the Aussie bush, unless you're up in the north where the crocs are, of course, that's a different story. There's nothing that kind of wants to eat you. There's things that might want to hurt you. You guys have got like mountain lions and bears and stuff that they're going to kill you, man.
Oregon, and I don't see mountain lions that often, but they're around, even in town sometimes. I actually saw one get shoot out of the tree by a police a couple of 7 or 8 years ago. But bears there's tons of them, and then they've come right to my front door, and I'm banging on the glass, and its face is right there, and it didn't even spook them. They've kind of gotten a little acclimated to people because of trash cans and stuff. But there's a lot of bears. I saw on one of my dual sport rides not too long ago. That's pretty cool. And we have fox, and it's pretty wild here. But the only ones that I think that really, I mean, the bears scare me because I get right by them by the trail sometime. I've had a deer attack me, actually. That was pretty gnarly. But I live to tell the tale. But the mountain lions, I think, would be the scariest. But the odds and the statistics are so low on mountain lions. But I'm the kind that's up there. I used to do a lot of trail running too. Now I'm just too beat up. My, motocrosser's body.
Yeah.
I'm Evel Knievel. That's what I tell people.
I do trail running. Yeah. And it's, I've got these goals with it and that sort of thing, man, but I keep having to stop and start because something will go wrong with me legs, because the old dirt biker's legs. But I really like running, and I was quite good at it when I was a young fella. And when you're good at it, and when you get to that stage where you're cruising along running and it's kind of easy, it's really awesome, man. It's like therapy. It's like this real old school feeling of being a natural human that's just moving through the world. There's something about it I love. But yeah, man, I just I'll have a calf blow up or an ankle blow up or something. There's always something in it. I got to stop and start again. So yeah,
it's like hiking. That same thing. I look at it. It's kind of like mountain biking. You're just covering way more ground. Like if you're running for 45 minutes versus hiking, you're seeing twice the amount of trails. That's what I like to. Yeah, it was hard to quit. I had to do it in stages. I tried everything, orthotics and shorter distances and this and that, and finally realized just too hard on my knees and stuff. So
yeah, man. Yeah. That's it, dude.
I'm back to motorcycles. That's that's the best. I love dual sports because I can ride right from the house and just don't even have to put it in a trailer. And then there's millions of roads around here, dirt roads and trails, and forests go on.
Do you still moto at all, or you just sort of you stop the moto for nowadays?
I do it pretty infrequently. Once in a while, my good friend Mike Caruso, he's got a bunch of vintage bikes, and we'll go do a vintage race here and there. And he's offered to go on practice days, but just hasn't lined up yet. So I got my knee braces now, so I'm like, because I just know if I got hurt doing that, because my knees because that's my weak spot. I'd never like forgive myself, but yeah, I'm ready. And I've been riding my dual sport now, so it's like I'm kind of like primed for it. But yeah, I've done a few vintage races, not very successfully, but it's fun because I'm more used to. I don't know, when I get on those old bikes, it's fun. And then I have a really cool friend that let me try a modern trials bike recently. That was cool, and trust me, I wasn't doing what you see on YouTube with trials bikes, but I just riding it was pretty sick. And one thing I do like doing on modern bikes, so it's like downhilling for me is natural because of all my mountain biking. I just love going downhill on motorcycles. And people, like one time we went on a ride, they're okay, get ready. There's like one part that's pretty gnarly and pretty steep. And then we did the ride. I'm like, when are we going to get to the steep part? And he's like, well, we did it already. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know. That was nothing.
Yeah, it's funny. I know, man. Like, yeah, when I was a young bloke, I hated downhills and loved uphills. But I'm probably the opposite now, man. I love the downhills. Yeah, this when you just get in that sort of flow, even if they're pretty gnarly downhill, you sort of just get into that flow and you just get used to being a little bit out of control, and you just sort of once you just sort of letting it go a bit.
Yeah,
it's a good feeling, man. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to really pick your line, and then.
Yeah, that's the key. Yeah.
And I learned on motorcycles, it's probably not as critical, but on mountain bikes, you get anything throws you over the front, right? And so
Okay.
I was a long time ago, like you just got to do all your braking before you hit something gnarly and roll through the gnarly spot part. But if you're rolling, if you're not slowed enough before you hit that, then you're kind of screwed because you're going to pick up too much speed. But having your brakes on, going through the technical parts really doesn't work. You got to be rolling through that.
So when you're downhilling when you're downhilling on a dirt bike, like the brakes don't work great, yeah, as you know, man. Like there's not a lot. Sometimes you're better off to just forget the brakes and just and just flow. But I guess on the mountain bike, because they're so light, the brakes do work, yeah.
And it's like the front brake is like what's the critical part, like the back brake just kind of straightens you out here and there, but it's all about that front brake. So
yeah. I'll get into it at some stage. Yeah, where we're planning to move to, there's a fair bit of mountain biking. So
yeah,
cool, man. Tell me about your first motorbike, man. What was your first bike?
Well, the very first one I ever rode was a Honda Trail 90, and it was a neighbor's, and they had me do it on like our private drive, which was really steep, and I went downhill first. I had never ridden it. They said, here, get on this. I went downhill and I did pretty good, and then I kind of crashed into these bushes, but I didn't fall off the bike. I just kind of messed up, right? But I was kind of hooked. And so then I got a Taco mini bike. That's what I would really say was my first bike.
Yeah.
And I grew up, I'm not going to say poor, but I didn't grow up rich. Let's put it that way. And I wanted a Honda Mini Trail so bad, but I couldn't afford it. So I ended up getting a Taco 99 purple frame, had, I don't know, 1 inch of spring suspension in the back and nothing, or in the front, nothing on the back. Took off the governor, put on a straight pipe, and bent the foot pegs back because they were just welded like metal tubes coming out. I'd hit so much stuff with those foot pegs, dude. They were both like wings. That chain would come off constantly, but that thing was still a blast. I was like in heaven. And then my first real dirt bike was a Yamaha 90 MX, 71, because in 72 Yamaha went to 100cc, but I had a Yamaha 90. It's just a stripped enduro that they did there. It had trials tires, stock, and big huge square number plates. But I was same thing, dude, like pig in mud. I was happy as could be, and because where I grew up in Southern California, we could go riding in the hills behind our house after ripping around through either like a few places we weren't supposed to go or on the street where we just blast through there and then go right all through the hills and then blast back. And by that time, the cops couldn't catch us, although we got chased all the time. And they only caught us the only time they ever caught us. This is pretty funny. You used to be able to ride through there. You could ride through the hills, and if you went through the hills far enough, you could get to this intersection where there was a gas station. So we wanted to go riding, and we only had my friend's Yamaha 175. So it was his bike. I sat on back, and I carried the 5-gallon gas can empty to the gas station. We made the mistake of filling it up, right? So we filled it up, and we were coming back, and there was this place where they're doing a housing development. It's kind of like ET, where they had built the flat spot and then like a slope and then a flat spot and then a slope. And it was just a bunch of that. And then there was a street paralleling it. Well, the cop was chasing us on the street, and my friend was doing those jumps. I was holding on to him with one hand, nowhere to put my feet, holding the gas can with the other thing. And the cop finally got us, but they got him because he was the one riding. But that was pretty funny because we were doing I think we must have done at least 12, 15 jumps before he finally pulled his car. And then we turned around, and it was a classic.
Yeah. And he was probably more scared of what his parents would say than what the cop was going to do.
Yeah. His dad owned the Yamaha shop. So, but I always wanted a Hodaka. Have you seen those? Those things are big.
Yeah.
Same thing. Hodaka, so I got the Yamaha, but he was super cool. The same guy, his name was Skip Clark. He used to own this shop in Southern California called City Cycle Center, and he was a flat track guy. Gary Scott's big sponsor back in the day. He's like Gary Scott used to be kind of Kenny Roberts' main competition, but he owned a super cool motocross track in the mountains there that was pretty obscure called Running Springs Motocross. So I was lucky to have that guy for my neighbor. And same deal, I bought a Rickman from him. I don't know if you've ever seen those. They're super. And Rickmans were cool because they were English, and they built the frames, and they were all nickel, and they had fiberglass. They were like works of art. And so the 125 was a Zundap motor. The 250 was a Montesa, and then the Open was a Triumph. And that was basically what they did. And sometimes people would 100cc Hodaka, sometimes people would Yamaha. But that bike was pretty sick. I had one of those, and that was the best bike I've ever had for doing wheelies. And then I was wheeling that thing all the time, and then I looped it out, and it had that fiberglass fender on the back. I just destroyed it. So finally got a new one on there. Did my very first wheelie, I looped out again. So I just run that thing with no fender. I didn't even get a Preston Petty. I just was racing down with like nothing on the back.
That's what I was going to say. Time for a Preston Petty. Yeah.
I had friends that would try and put them in the freezer to break them to get new ones, and then it wouldn't work, and it would be all bent up.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Awesome. I love all those bikes, man. Yeah, I remember.
I had a lot of those classic bikes.
Yeah, man. Yeah. What's your favorite one, though, man? So that was the best one for doing wheelies. What's your favorite bike?
Zundap was my personal favorite. And then I got to, like, when I worked at Motocross Action Magazine, I got to test tons of them. And then I think my favorite one from that era that I tested was like a Husqvarna. It was a 77 Husqvarna 390 open class. And for some reason, that bike and me just got along. But one thing pretty cool about Motocross Action was Suzuki was pretty smart, because when they would give us a test bike, they'd let us keep it for months, because they figured, we're going to try some new shocks on that. So that's the bike we put it on. Or we're going to try who knows whatever accessory we got to test for somebody, we always put it on that damn Suzuki 250. So I kept that permanently. That was like at my house for months. And I used to race that thing like at MXA. It was pretty cool because like I said, I was just a kid. I was like 19, but half the pros were 19, but I had an expense account, and they would pay for gas. They would pay for entry fee, anything with the bike, oil, whatever. I just had to make sure my little bill was legit. So I would race every weekend or twice, and because they would pay. So if I didn't have a test bike, to race, I would just ride that damn 250 Suzuki, a 76 RM. That thing was like a workhorse. It was such a good, solid bike and such a good like platform. And I'd always get like, we get Fox shocks to put on the backs and I'd get all kinds of cool stuff to try on it.
So was that because I think we some of those Suzukis we got them the following year to what you got. So was that if it was a 76? Was that an A or a B over there?
I would say that I'm going to say that 76 was. I'm going to say it was an A, but because I bought as soon as I left the magazine, I went and bought a 125B, a 77B for my own bike and raced that because then I didn't work at the magazine anymore, but. I think that 250 was an A.
Yeah.
It was a 6, and we got it when it first came out because we were the magazine. But like I said, they let us keep. I think we kept it for 9 months. So every time I'd go to the track and go test riding, I'd have that bike in my truck too. Because then when everyone was test riding, because like I said, I was kind of like a low man on the totem pole. I would just take that out and rip her because I was like, obsessed. I just wanted to ride. I'd ride that thing. And then finally I'd come in. I'm like, oh, can I try the Mako now? And they'd be sure. So I'd go out on that for, whatever test bike we had. There's a couple I didn't like. I didn't like the Montesa. I always thought, oh, I really want a Montesa. They look so cool. And then I rode it and I'm like, this thing sucks. That was like a 77 250. So each year is different.
Yeah. So you had an RM125B, man. That's one of my favorite bikes.
Yeah, and I used to this sand track. It's called Spillway. It was in a town above Santa Maria, and it was in a riverbed, and so it was like mostly sand, and that thing would get so whooped out, and and it was a 125, and I just felt like I was abusing that poor bike because it was just all day long, dude, on the gas. Just that motor was just spinning in the sand, and I'm like, oh, my poor bike. I wish there was a better track closer. That's where I raced a lot. Yeah. And those second motos would get super rough, and that sand was super harsh on a 125. I wish I had an open class bike for that place or something.
Yeah. Not a lot of power in your old school 125s, man. But
I thought I'd blow it up, but it never. To its credit, I mean, I took pretty good care of it, but it never did seize. And I constantly thought like, oh, I am gonna destroy this motor, just ringing it for 20. Because even amateur races then were pretty long. I think they were 20-minute motos. I used to do those 40-minute motos at Saddleback. On Saturdays they used to just have this like. I think it was Saturdays or Sundays, but it wasn't CMC. It was some other smaller thing, but it was 40-minute motos, and that was super cool.
What was your favorite track in SoCal?
I would probably say this place called Rawhide, even though I only raced there a couple times. Most people wouldn't know about it, I don't think. I mean, old school guys would know. It's pretty cool. The best night track was this place called Corona because it used this big hill, but you couldn't see. And all the locals knew it so well, like, because they could write, like, they knew where to go. But, like, if you didn't race there all the time, it was so dark, you didn't know where the lines were and stuff. It's that bad. But it had the best. I kind of like tracks that had hills, and I did Saddleback and Carlsbad like everybody. But there were so many tracks back then. I used to do a night one called El Toro. That was super fun. And I got to do a lot of them.
Yeah, man. It's just amazing, man. Especially to me, man. Like growing up where there was no motocross tracks, like it was like motocross, and more so than that when I was a kid. You felt like even to race motocross, you already had to be a superstar. Like there wasn't even a realization that if we had a track here, I could have a go at racing. It was just
Right.
like, no, like you've got to be a superstar to even turn up, because it was all foreign to us, So we would see the Australian superstars in magazines and the American superstars in magazines and that sort of thing. And there was never a sort of you didn't, unless you were a family that was right into it. Like, because my dad was into car racing, and then I got into bikes and had some friends into them and that sort of thing. But to us, it was like, dudes that race are like unbelievably quick, But whereas all of us could have had a go at it if we'd had it known and we had the facilities.
Yeah, you kind of didn't get the opportunity, or you just thought that's like you have to be special to. Like when I did it, it was like a big fad, and a lot of it was from On Any Sunday. But I was already riding before that came out, but not racing. And then, but there was a period like when everybody, like I think at my high school, there must have been 8 guys, maybe 6 to 8 easily, that had Honda Elsinores. There was a period when everybody had them, like just Joe Average would go, I'm going to go be a motocross guy. And they go buy a Honda Elsinore and show up at the track. And they even had high school motocross races like back. The thing that was cool back in those days too, is they had, I don't think Monday and Tuesday nights. I don't remember. I might be wrong, but they had races on Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. I couldn't afford to go that many, but some pros would go to all of them, right? And they were different tracks too. Like on a Friday night, you could go to OCIR, which was in Orange County Raceway, or you could go up to Indian Dunes, had Friday night. Thursday, I think when they had El Toro, but they also had Corona. I think Wednesday was Irwindale, but they had all these night tracks. It was pretty sick. And then on Saturday or Sunday, they not only would they have big CMC was like the main thing, like I kind of talked about, but that was like kind of they went, every other week, Saddleback Carlsbad. Once in a while they do like someone like Dead Man's Point or somewhere random. And then they had the Valley guys that it was mostly AME, and they did Indian Dunes and Valley Cycle Park. And in the old days, they had this place called Bay Mare, which was actually now that's probably my favorite track now that I finally answered the question. So yeah, Bay Mare was my favorite track.
Righto. It's time for an ad read. First up, Guts Racing. Greg's Ultra Trick Seats. Gutsracing.com. That's a really easy website to remember. Gutsracing.com. How good does that RMZ, depending on where you come from, 250 of Kenny's look with that? He's got that black Guts seat on it. Fantastic. Looking forward to that. That is what I'm most excited about this weekend. There's excitement on Guts seats all across the world. Kaiser Wolfman and Lucas Kuhnen, those two just going at it. And now you got to wonder why the Husqvarnas are having the success over there a little bit more than the KTMs. Is it Kai and Lucas, or is it just that extra edge they get from having the Guts seat on the Rockstar Husqvarnas? Phil is very close to wrapping up his pro career. We think. Who knows, though? Hey, who knows? On his Club MX Yamaha with a Guts seat. My guy Scott Meshy's out there. He's the man who says that a Guts seat is a butt gripper and it will make you a ripper. He's out there being a privateer hero. Mookie is real close to that podium. Mookie's podium is coming this weekend, I reckon. And he, of course, he is on a Rockstar Husqvarna. Speaking of Rockstar Husqvarnas, you buy one of those, the Rockstar editions that you yourself can go and buy, comes off the showroom floor with a Guts seat. So that speaks volumes. Guts obviously make seat covers. They also make complete seats. They make custom seats with bumps, with wide wings, with ultralight seat foam, with ballistic material around the knee brace area if you want any of those things. A huge range of colors, amazing technical support. Like I keep saying, I couldn't believe when the first time I got a Guts seat cover, I scanned that QR code that came with it. It took me to a video. And there's the man himself, Andy Gregg, showing us how to install that cover. Gutsracing.com. That's a really easy website to remember. Another easy website to remember is specbolt.com. Thank you to Specbolt Fasteners for coming on board as a sponsor of the Outside Gate for the next few shows. There'll be one show in particular coming up with a world-renowned guy in the restoration field, and he's also quite the character. He will be coming on a show very soon, and we will talk all things restoration, and we will talk a little bit about Specbolt on that show too, because he is an avid Specbolt user. Big fan, big Specbolt guy. Specbolt, what can you get? Restoration kits is what I just got. So I'm restoring a 1984 Honda CR250 and an 86 YZ125. And I can't believe how good the kits are. I knew they were going to be good. I've followed Ken and Specbolt on socials for a while. But opened it up. I can't believe how much detail there is in there, how everything's packed, the packets and the sizing, and how everything's just made so easy for you. It's kind of like, I love a Ziploc bag when I'm pulling a bike apart and I've cleaned parts. I put them in Ziploc bags. So, it warms the heart to see the Ziploc bags, man. And like, there you go, water pump, even down to that sort of detail. So you don't just get like a bag of engine bolts, water pump. There you go, 3 bolts and a copper washer in there. Absolutely beautiful. This one here is the seat and your side covers, your side panels. It's even got, what's so cool about this, your little washers that have the little like step on them. So there's kind of like a that presses into the hole in the plastic that you can never ever find anywhere. Replacements that are the right sort of internal external diameter to fit in your plastics again, that sort of thing. They're in that packet. That sort of thing means a lot. It's nothing more annoying than having to put a plain washer in there because you can't get that right washer that fits in there. So, and also when you don't have that in, you end up getting cracks around that part of the plastic. So fantastic stuff there. You can also get maintenance kits for your modern bikes. Even your Austrian bikes, you can get KTM, Husqvarna, gas kits where you've got all your 13 mil Torx head weirdo stuff that, like your mate with Austrian bikes who, you can't borrow any of his tools and he can't borrow any of yours yet. Well, all that stuff's in there. You can get a cool hat like the one I'm wearing, especially if you're a guy with a big fat head like mine. This hat fits beautiful. Sometimes you get those hats off people and they don't fit guys with big fat heads. Not the case of a Specbolt hat, man. So get yourself one of them. You can even get a Specbolt t-shirt, which I've got on at the moment, but it was a bit cold in this room this morning, so we're sort of into flannel season. We're out of hoodie season into flannel season now. Sort of getting into the Aussie springtime. Specbolt.com. Thank you very much once again to them for their support, and we'll be talking a bit more about them over the next few episodes. Specbolt.com. That's another really easy one to remember. Specbolt.com. You mentioned your Zundap before. That was your favorite. What size was the Zundap?
That one was a 125. So that's the motor that the Rickman picked. But I never really rode a true Zundap. And so I'll take a moment to plug my new book I'm working on.
That's what I was getting towards.
Yeah, it's called Z is for Zundap. So it's a kid's book that's ABC. And so for each letter, it's all dirt bikes. And so A is like AJS, and I'll say B because it's like Bull Taco and BSA and blah, blah, blah. And same thing when I was hurt from getting in that dual sport when the car hit me a couple of years ago. In fact, the anniversary Sunday, but I had my Facebook friends help me. I go, okay, pick a dirt bike. Tell me all the dirt bikes that start with B, and all these people would send me these different things, and I couldn't draw. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I didn't just break my kneecap. That's a critical part. I broke my drawing finger, so I was pretty stressed. So at first I was just going to do is B is for Bull Taco, right? And just pick one bike for you. But then as I started getting in all these super interesting bikes, I'm like, oh, that's sick. So now I'm going to like have like in the back, I'm going to do cartoons for each bike like that I feature, like B will be a Bull Taco. But then I'll have like all these other Bimati and all these other bikes that people have recommended. And I kept saying like, oh, it has to be a dirt bike. And it has to have knobbies. And I'd go do Googling and people would send me bikes I had never heard of. And I thought it was the coolest thing. So now I've got this big list for each letter of all these different bikes. And so I put it in there and the parents are reading this little ABC book to their kids. They can be like reading all the little kind of the names in the background and going like a Bamati. I'm going to Google that as soon as Johnny falls asleep. And there's some of them have some pretty cool histories. Some of the older like bikes. And, I kind of had to struggle with Q's and X's but it's always on the back burner because every time someone, has me do a project for them, then I have to put that to the side. But I was going to do it for my grandson, and I'm almost running out of time because he's counting now. So I better get my butt in gear.
That's it, man. You better get that finished off. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to seeing that, man. That's really cool. I like the idea, man.
It turned into a whole nother thing because it turned into like almost a research project, but it's mostly me just getting the drawings, and I'm working on. I don't know if I can turn the camera. I'll hold it up. So I'm working on today. I'm just going straight through the letter. So, and I've already got a bunch of them, but like, here's my ETOL jet, it's like a little kid's bike. I decided to do that instead of so it's pretty cool. And then here's the head for it.
Yep.
And you kind of saw how I do it. There's the body.
Yeah.
I used to draw the whole thing at once, but now I got, sometimes I don't even draw the wheels. I just add, but that way I have the bike. If I ever want to just have the bike for something else, and then that's available. Where where I drew the whole thing, and after I scan it in the computer, you can't break the elements apart. So.
Yeah. Cool. I like it, man. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what you come up with for each letter. Like I haven't gone through and thought of it myself, but yeah.
Tell me some of the letters. I'll tell you the featured bike.
Well, the X and the Q, man.
Z. That's what you call Z.
Yeah, the X and the Q. Yeah. Z for Zundout. Yeah. What about the X and the Q?
Okay, so the Q, I broke my own rules. On all the other ones, they have to be bike brands, not models. But for Q, I'm just going to do a QA50, those tiny little Hondas.
Yeah.
So, and for X, it's some Chinese bike. It's called an X bike or something like that. And so one of the problems with it is now is I got to decide, like, there's so many electric bikes coming out, dirt bikes. And so I got to see, like, I don't know, should I exclude electric bikes?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a hard call, but yeah, it's interesting, man. Yeah.
I was gonna do Greaves, that old British brand, but instead I said nope, I'm gonna do gas, and I did Barsha. I bought some modern ones in there.
Yeah.
So.
There's a one like when you look into that sort of stuff, especially from Italy, there's so many weird brands that we've never heard of. Like the amount of small boutique manufacturers of dirt bikes out of Italy is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, there's tons. And I remember even in the 70s, there were all these weird Italian bikes. And I'm like, I would never buy one of those. You'll never get parts for it or never be able to resell it. And I can't remember what bike it is right now, but they had one bike. And when I Googled it, it had all the other names that they were marketing it at. I think it was a Brazilian bike made in China. But every country that they market it to, they changed the name. So that one bike had, like, I'm not joking, 25 names, and some of them were pretty cool, like, like a Thunderdog, or they have some pretty random names. But so at some point, and then, some people would send me really, really old bikes and go like, well, yeah, they had dirt roads, so it's a dirt bike. And I'm like, So I had to kind of use my own, I got to be the editor. But I did put into it to make sure there's no funky ones in there. But I found out about so many bikes I've never heard of. But like, you're right, there's a lot of them from Italy,
Yeah,
boutique ones.
yeah, especially like Italian enduro bikes, man. Like they're just crazy the amount of different brands. You know, if you
Yeah.
especially you look at what turns up to the vintage event that they run alongside the ISDE, which I
Uh-huh.
think it's the vintage 3 day or whatever it's called, and the Italian bikes that turn up to theirs, like every color and name you can possibly imagine, and yeah, that's from Italy, so yeah, they love that sort of stuff. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I am doing an ISDT because that's the old school one. I am doing a Jawa for J, and it's an ISDT rider. So that's another thing I kind of wanted to do for the book is since, I mean, yeah, I'm a motocrosser, right? But I wanted to have like I have one bike that's a true like an enduro. I have a hill climber. I have a mini. I don't really have a flat track bike because gotta draw the line somewhere. But I try to do other. I have a trials bike. I try to do different disciplines of the sport to be and tried to, like I say, do all eras. So, but I learned a lot about a lot of old school bike. Like one interesting one for the letter U. I'm doing one called a URM. It was made in Ireland, and it's pretty sick. So like when people get the book, like they can go, oh, I'm going to see what a URM is, and it has a cool history. There's a lot of cool histories on a lot of these bikes. So
Yeah, that's one I've never heard of, man. URM. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I have this. I could dig up the sketch.
Yeah, cool, man. Cool. That's it. And so your current ride, man, is a DRZ 400, yeah?
Yeah. It's a DRZ 400. Uh, I, I already got scolded by my son, but he was letting me use his 2017, and I rode that for a while, and that's one that the car hit me, and then I bought a 2000, and that one's even better. That platform hasn't changed, and I just saw one on Facebook Marketplace in my area. It's a 2007. Got hardly any miles. The guy wants $2,800. I'm like tempted just to buy it to have it. But those Suzuki DRZs haven't changed in 1,000 years. There's
Mm.
tons of parts for them. It has like the big heavy tank, big high capacity tank, and I don't know, a few other odds and ends. But people fix them up so many different ways. And the one I like about mine, it's kind of cool. It's got the kickstart and the electric start. That's
Oh yeah.
very few have that. So.
Yeah, the early ones had both. Yeah. Yeah. I think the real early ones, at least the real early ones in Australia, there were some that were only kickstart in the first
Right.
couple, right
My
at the
friend,
start there. Yeah.
yeah, that's just kickstart only.
Yeah.
And 2001, and it only had the electric start. So I think without doing, I'm sure I'll get corrected by some because there's so many DRZ freaks out there. But I think that 2000 was the last year that they had both. So I kind of got something that Roxon doesn't have. It's an electric start Suzuki. So.
That's it, man. That's it.
So how do you think you'll do this weekend? I say fifth. What do you think?
Oh, dude.
Go
I'm
anyway.
I'm high on it. I reckon he's going to do well.
Kenny Roxon, dude.
Especially in the first moto, I can see a podium in the first moto, and then maybe like a fourth in the second moto. So if I had to guess, I'm going to say like 2-4
Yeah.
which might get him an overall third.
It's so hard. 250 class is hard enough already. The thing about the 250 class is if you're out the back, dude, they're going, like say 9th, 10th, 11th, they're going as fast as the front guys almost. They're just not in the front. It's a
Yeah.
freight. Because I went to, Hangtown, and I mean, I've gone to lots of outdoors, but this year, dude, there were some intense battles in the back. They don't show that on TV. That's what you miss out when you watch it. There was at Washugo, they were it was Swole and Savachi were battling each other, and Pierce Brown and what's the other gas guy?
Ryder D.
Ryder D. All four of those guys, and I think maybe Beaumer, they were all like in this pack from like 7th back, killing each other to get 7th, you know, and just probably lap time same as the front guys, but they just didn't get up to the start in the beginning. That's what I like about going and watching the races live. You see all that stuff in the back. Pretty sick.
Yeah. Oh, you can't beat being there live. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that happen to Rocks, and he just doesn't get off the line good enough, and he gets. Dude, those back races in 250s are vicious. You let off one, like there's someone in front of you, someone in back of you the whole race. You make one mistake, dude, you're off the back, and then two guys in front of you, one guy makes a mistake, and the other guy's right on him. You're right back up there. It's cool. Makes our sport so awesome.
Yeah, like always, but I think particularly for Kenny this weekend, he's got to get good starts. Like he has to get good starts.
Yeah.
I think. And some people, a lot of people are like, oh, you won't get good starts in the Suzuki. Those Suzukis with those twisted motors, man, they're not slow. They'll get off the line all right. He'll do fine off the line if he executes, I think. So
Insta reel with him, Levi Kitchen, and Nick Romano while practicing their starts, dude. He was right with them, but, practice is one thing and racing's another.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I'm excited about it, man. I'm excited to see how it goes. So yeah, it's
like our buddy Daniel Blair. We'll see. It's going to be cool to see Adams in there now too. See how he does, right?
Yeah, Drew Adams. Yeah, it'll be. He's another one. Yeah, it's really puts a lot of interest into that 250 class, and
those guys first in the first moto, when they first come in, it seems like 250. It's like the rookies, the guys that are going pro for like 3 races, just shine in that first moto.
They often do, don't they? Yeah. It's like that. They get a bit of beginner's luck going on, don't they? Where they sort of just come out and like, wow, So
that's almost ignorance is bliss.
That's it, man. That's it. And it's like. It shed some real excitement on the 250 class that would have been a bit flat because the championship's over, so. Yeah.
And in all fairness, like the SMX, it is cool that all these guys are coming back where they wouldn't before, Tomac would have probably sat out the season, and Webb tried to come back, and it's all because of their little points, but you look at the payouts, man, it's insane. Even, it's a lot of incentive, so it's kind of kept the outdoors a little more fresh.
It has helped the outdoors, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm an outdoors guy because I'm old.
Yeah, I love both, man, but I probably actually do love the outdoors a little bit more than Supercross. Yeah. When it's all, if I had to choose, probably just because of because I like the history in it, I guess, which is funny because Supercross has got like 50 years of history as well, but it's not, I don't know. I think probably the biggest reason that I love motocross a little bit more is because I always love the riders that are a real fucking warrior. I love the tough riders that are a real warrior. I love the Eli's, man, I always like them more than the super skillful superstar, that sometimes is better at Supercross than motocross. I love that real sort of warrior thing, which is funny because I love McGrath. Like everyone loves McGrath, but he's probably that, on that side of it where he was like so good at Supercross and all the talent. But I always really value that warrior mentality. So
I like the elevation change and that it's out in nature, like, I don't know, like a track like Paula, I'm not like a huge fan, but I love them when they're like in a valley, I grew up in the era where like we thought the Euro tracks, like the dream is like, you go into some big, huge valley with a big gulch, and then you just lay out your ribbon on all this virgin territory, and okay, boys, go race. You know, like back in the day when I worked at Motocross Action, they had a race like that at Sears Point, and to me, that was still like probably one of the best races they ever did. They just all off camber, all these like V, bottoms where you had just hit and then come straight up, and the Euros waxed us that day, and that's when we were about getting equal with them, but they spanked everyone that day. And I always thought those were the ultimate tracks, but I've learned since then riding on grass isn't. I've done a couple of tracks. It's slippery and it gets kind of one line. It's not as ultimate as you think. But I just like the outdoors because of all the elevation change, uphills and downhills and off cambers.
Yeah, imagine if you got all the pros that are lining up. The field we have right now, and put them on a track like that.
I still would think the cream would rise to the top, because really when you have a mud race, with a few exceptions, it still ends up being like Tomac and Marvin Musquin back in the day. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of the same guys still manage to get to the top. A couple of them really flounder because it's mud, and a couple like total rookies like McElrath did really good in one of the mud races, who I'm not putting him down that he normally doesn't do good. In fact, he's one of my underdogs I cheer for, because the guy is a great person, super nice to me today. But those mud races are kind of like that, right? You throw the weirdest conditions and still like the top guys do pretty good because they're talented and they're gritty, like you said. And I think if you did it, the results wouldn't be as different as you think, except for a few anomalies. One or two guys would probably that don't normally do so good would probably be really good, and a couple of guys would tank. But yeah, I'll have to talk to Davey Coombs and tell him, yeah, let's do that instead of Paula.
That's it, man. Yeah, it's
a Friday day, dude.
Yeah.
Like, hey boys, check this out. Go to town.
Yeah. Yeah, you struggle to find a grass track in California, though, won't you?
They did that at a track called Escape Country, and I'm going to say it was 1978, which was kind of near Saddleback, and the track there was kind of like same thing, hard pack, but way easier. Kind of man-made jumps and kind of easy berms and all that. But for the national, dude, they just, because in the springtime it's all nice. California in the spring is all green, and then after that it's all dead grass. So winter and spring, winter's almost like, so that place had a lot of riding areas. They just went and picked a hill and just laid it all out. And that was after I left the magazine, and I went back just as a, what do you call it, a civilian. Took pictures that day, saw all my old buddies. So you could do it. I don't know about Paula, but there's places in California you could.
Yeah.
It's not as dry as you think in that time of year.
Okay, yeah.
Now you're a California local now. After your big,
I've been there, man, and I hope to get back. So, yeah, my next trip, man, I'm sort of torn between California again, or I'd really like to do Redbud. Redbud's definitely a goal.
Well, I know I think Motocross of I almost said Motocross the Nations, like dating myself. I think Motocross of Nations next year is at Ironman, I think. Like, it'd be cool if it was at Redbud, but that'd be pretty cool because I've never been one of those ever. And, my biological clock is ticking, not for babies, but for being, I only got so many more outdoor races to go watch, like,
How many kids do you have, Curt?
Enough, but, I'm like, hey, if I'm going to do it, I might better do it now while I can. So, but next year I'll go.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, a bit of a gathering, bit of a Redbud gathering. Yeah,
it was so fun hanging with you at Anaheim 1, dude. That's like the dream, right? The whole day and everything. Classic.
It was a dream come true. That's for sure, man. Yeah, and you paid for my beer all night as well. I remember that. You were buying the beers.
Yeah.
That's it. Those big. What brand were they? Those big yellow cans.
Modelo's maybe.
Yeah, they were big. There's a Mexican beer, big yellow cans, big like.
Yeah.
Like a 500 mil big tall can, which doesn't make any sense to you guys, whatever that means in quarts.
Each or something.
Yeah, that's it. However many ounces they were, but yeah, for the Aussie listeners, they're like a 500 mil sort of size. The old like those old school giant Coke cans we used to get here in Australia. Yeah, it was sort of that size in a beer.
Yeah, I had a lot of Aussie friends when I lived in Hawaii, because like I lived on the North Shore where all the surfers were. So I had a bunch of Aussie friends. They're so funny.
Yeah. Well, obviously surfing's big here, man. I've never lived near the coast, and I'm not a big fan of the thought of being out there with sharks either, man. So I don't think I'd ever get into surfing. But
my brothers, Hawaiian friends, and my friend too. His son's a huge, famous surfer in Australia, because he moved to Australia. His name's Russell Bierke. Have you ever heard of that guy? He surfs like those Western Australia slabs, they call them. The wave just comes in and like such a thick lip, and it's like on really shallow rock. Dude, you should look him up. His name's Russell Bierke, and I think it's spelled Bjerke, or just if you put in Russell B Australian surf slab, he'll pop up. He's amazing. Super cool Aussie surfer.
Yeah. And that's one of the worst spots in the Western Australia. That's one of the worst spots in the world for sharks too.
Gnarly.
Yeah. I mean, they're all around. The big sharks are all around Australia, but yeah, they're certainly known off the coast of Western Australia and sort of off the coast of like South Africa. I think they're two of the worst spots. Yeah. Even the little bay down just sort of south of where I am. Where Phillip Island motor racetrack is, where the road bike race. Yeah, that's sort of the southern part of my state there, and I went fishing there in the little bay there, and we're on this little boat and everything, and we had a good fun fishing trip, man. These couple of characters I worked with, and then we went to the pub there, and there's this picture and this measurement of the this like world record shark that got caught in that bay. It was a 7 meter, so like what's that, like about 23 foot great white that got caught in that bay, and there's a picture over the bar, and I was like, that's like 2.5 size times the boat we were just out there on, dude. I didn't know that. But,
got back.
Yeah. But I'm not too keen on the thought of. It's funny, man. Like I don't reckon I'd be scared. I mean, of course you're going to be scared, but I don't really fear situations with animals on land like at all. Like I reckon I'd always figure out a way to survive or fight it off or climb a tree or get away from it. But if you're in the water, man, you're stuffed. Like there's no what are you going to do?
Well, like you're supposed to punch a shark right in the nose because that's where it's the most sensitive. I've had a lot of one-armed guys tell me that story.
Yeah, well, yeah. Speaking of surfing, there's obviously the famous one where Mick Fanning punched it, and they got it on video where Mick Fanning punched a shark in the nose.
That's what you're supposed to do. It's kind of like your only recourse, really.
Yeah.
Like they tell you spray a bear, but like you know how close you got to be to spray the bear. Yeah, no, that doesn't.
Probably too late. Yeah.
They need to make air spray grenades. Is what my invention. Really loud air spray. So you don't. Yeah. Air horns work pretty good.
It's funny. Here's a little Aussie thing, man. I nearly said it just before, just without thinking about it. But a bit of Aussie rhyme and slang for a shark is a Noah, because a Noah's Ark.
So, like,
So if an Aussie says there's a big Noah out there, that means there's a shark, because it's Roman
but a
slang for Noah's Ark.
know that, right? A seppo, is that like a yank? A seppo, is that what you say?
Oh yeah. Sometimes you'll get that seppo, which is septic tank yank. It's a Roman slang. Yeah.
I've had
So,
all be that. It's like, what? Oh, okay.
yeah, septic tank. And then Joe Blake. Joe Blake's a snake. So watch out for watch out in that long grass. There'll be Joe Blakes in there.
And what kind of snake drew on your logo for the black one?
Red belly black snake is what I got you to put on the logo. Yeah, I don't know why. They're just like, they're dangerous as fuck, but they're really pretty, man. Like, yeah. And they're around where I live as well. So
yeah, well, you know how it is. I had to research it, and I'll tell you a funny story. So I have a Australian friend here that's a brewer, and his brewery is called Walkabout Brewing Company. And he wanted me to draw like one of those, like standing, like, you know, they stand like a flamingo, one leg up, and you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he gave me like these 3 books all about this is probably like 20 years ago, right? But I designed his logo for his brewery, and he still has it. He's super successful. Walkabout Brewing Company.
Yeah.
But he gave me these 3 books so me to look at pictures and do it. This is like such me like going overboard for the research. I said like I read all 3 books. Like I was super into them, read all about Australia and all about the Aborigines and the history and all this stuff, dude. He's like, oh, did you use any of the pictures? I'm like, I read all 3 of those books. I loved them.
It is really interesting, man. Like, it is. That Aboriginal culture is really interesting, man. It's pretty cool, man. Like, you know, one of the coolest things I've done. I happened to we were in, you know, we were on a holiday at Ayers Rock at Uluru.
Yeah.
And which was super cool. If anyone, you know, got the chance, whether you're an Aussie or from overseas, to check that out. It's a pretty magical place. And we done lots of cool stuff, all the tourist stuff, you know. And then the last day we had certain amount of hours to kill before we were catching the bus back to the little airport, you know. And there was this sign on a tree. It was just like that there was going to be an elder there just telling tales. And I parked myself on a log there, and this old boy comes along and he sits down and he just starts telling stories about the old days. And it was awesome, man. Like, what was so funny is he was so politically incorrect, but because he's an Aboriginal elder, he could get away with saying anything. Like, he was like so un PC that I loved it, because he was just you know, and there was women in the crowd and that were like, you could tell they were uncomfortable about what this old fella was saying. But because he's an Aboriginal elder, it's like, I can get away with saying anything. Like,
right.
You know? So it was funny in that respect, but it was just really cool as well. And really, you know, I learned a lot of stuff, man, you know, like about, you know, some of the terrible things that the white fella did do out there, you know, just dumb stuff, you know, that they did out there, and that, you know, destroyed some of the things in nature and that sort of thing. But it was cool, man. Really, really cool. And then, you know, walking around the rock and all that sort of thing, and it was a really cool holiday. And they got almost like this little, they built sort of like a little tourist town out there in the desert, where, you know, it's like just for tourists, because that, like, the Aboriginal communities out there, man, like, they're real old school. Like, they're just like, you know, and it's just the way they've always been. It's real, like, rough, man. Like, they live in rough still. It's like, you know, blast from the past sort of stuff, you know. Like, there's definitely no tourist accommodation in Yulara, which is the little town there. They are rough and that, but they built this little sort of tourist thing there, and this huge big sort of outdoor pubs, and then, you know, and obviously a lot of motels and accommodation, and little, you know, shops and all that. And yeah, it was really cool place to visit if anybody is into that sort of thing. And yeah, cool, man. Cool. That's it. You've never been to Australia, man?
No, I've always wanted to go surfing there for one thing, and then the wildlife. And like I said, like I'm into birds, but I'd be just as intrigued by the mammals and the snakes and just the wildlife. And then I know there's beaches. I learned that from Uncle Jimmy. No, I already knew that. That's a big draw for us, Yanks.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, Uncle Jim. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bondi. I don't know if Bondi is still a topless beach, man. It's probably
I
not
don't,
anymore. I don't know, but
it's what people associate with it. It's funny.
yeah. And
I
there's
was laughing.
definitely topless beaches in Australia. I don't know whether they're still around, but yeah, I put out the old drop where Uncle Jim Holly was talking about
Yeah,
running on Bondi Beach because of the
no,
topless girls. Yeah,
he's so funny.
he's a legend, man. Yeah, he certainly is, man. He certainly is. Cool, man. Hey, I might ask you some of my your life's that interesting, man, that we'll do another episode for sure and talk about more cool stuff. But there's a few just sort of different, funny, sort of random questions I chose from my list just to ask you, man. Dude, here we go. I reckon you've already might have already answered this one, man. You might have already answered it. But what pushes your buttons, man? You're such a friendly guy. You're always smiling. What pushes your buttons apart from digital cartoon guys?
I'm gonna just say like now because I'm riding my dual sport a lot. It's like bad drivers, dude. I'll throw it out. This town where I live in Ashland, Oregon, has such shitty drivers. Oh my god! And even when I'm in my truck, I'm like, okay, I'll be patient with you, but you know what? That could have been me getting hurt if I had been on my bike. So I don't understand it, dude. It's like they're not even treating you like a human. You know, they just see you as like an obstacle. That kind of pisses me off.
Bad drivers in Oregon, man. That's not good.
Well, it's
So,
like I'm hypersensitive to it because I ride a motorcycle. So just it's like
yeah.
not paying.
I know what you mean, man. When you've been a motorcyclist and a cyclist,
Yeah.
you treat them a bit nicer when you're driving, don't you? Like,
Oh yeah. Like I'll sometimes ride defense if I see someone on a motorcycle. Like I'll get behind them, and then like
yeah,
I'll kind of block for them and stuff. And then cyclists, same deal. Like I probably cycled more than motorcycled on the street, dude. And cars are so stupid. But I don't know, for some reason when I'm on a bicycle, and it's usually a mountain bike, I'm so reckless when I'm on the street because I look at it as like it's like kind of like a death wish. Like, okay, so I'll just pedal across real fast and go kind of crazy, jump off, whatever it takes to survive it. I'm a little bit.
it's a bit like survival, isn't it? Like you can't trust you can't put your life in everyone else's hands. You gotta like I know
No,
when I'm out on a crappy skinny ass little road, sort of
yeah,
it's I guess sort of you think of like outback landscape. It's not outback to me, but
right.
outback to me is like heading out towards Uluru, like right outback, whereas sort of just west of us kind of just looks the same as that anyway, but doesn't feel like outback. So it's weird to say it, but it sort of makes sense for you guys to picture it. And there's a truck coming, man. I'm off the road, and I'm not on a mountain bike. I'm on a road bike with a little bit thicker tires. But I'm off the road, man. Like, and I'll hit the brakes. I'll jump off. I'll be in the side cut, walking it or carrying it for that truck to go past, man. I'm not just relying on him to give me heaps of space and that sort of thing. So you gotta sort of ride smart, don't you, man?
Yeah, especially
Yeah,
cell phones. Like
yeah,
people's it's not on the road all the time, you know.
And unfortunately, man, truck drivers are the worst at that. I know, because I was one, man. And when you're in a car, you can't really see what the truck drivers are doing. But
Right.
when you're in another truck, you can see what truck drivers are doing. And I wasn't driving a big flash interstate truck or anything. I was just driving just an 8-ton tray truck. But you're still up high, and you're still coming across a lot of other trucks, whether they're trucks like yours or big trucks or very big trucks. You're at that same height, and man, at least 50% of the time on their phone, and I'm not talking like even trying to hide it, just at their ear, like at least 50% of the time, the other guys like that, so
they'd have Bluetooth and just be doing all, handless and all that, but man. Yeah. So I live like right off Interstate 5, which is the main. It goes basically from Mexico to Canada, and it goes right, that's right where I live. So there's lots of big, huge semi trucks all the time around here. And like the gnarliest mountain pass is right south of where I live, and the semi trucks haul ass through it. So I was always like, I go, I don't like riding my motorcycle on the freeway, because that DRZ is just not fast enough, dude. I'm like tapped out at 70. The motor's sounding pretty haggard. And then I don't like riding at night, and then I don't like riding in the rain. But so then one night I go, I'm sick of like living in fear. And it was raining, and I go, it was dark. I'm going to go hop on the freeway. So I just said, I'm going to buckle up, man. And I got on my bike at night, got on the freeway, and like right alongside those trucks up that pass, dude, as gnarly as I could do it, and I go, okay, I survived. So I kind of I faced that fear, but pretty stupid.
I'm glad you survived, man. Yeah, I can remember. I was sort of the opposite, man. When I first got my so our first chance at freedom, man, was independence. Get your motorcycle license, your car license in my state. So you had to make sure you had a road registered bike. So we all rode XRs, because in Australia, an XR, you could race it and you could ride it to work. So they just sold so many XRs, and the Yamaha TT was the same deal, but XRs they're a better bike and they were more popular, especially for off-road performance. But so we had those, and then there was also some people that had like KDXs and some other things like that, DTs.
Big one.
And so yeah, I remember I was 17, and me and Mum, I was 17. I had an XR 250. I put dual sport tires on it, small back sprocket, a mirror. Put a mirror on it. Probably had a bracket off an XL or something, and put a mirror on it so I could see.
It makes a big difference on the street.
Yeah, and my mate, he had a KDX 250, which they were road registrable as well. And we went for an adventure weekend to Melbourne, and we were on the freeway, man. We were on the freeway, zigzagging through cars, standing on the seat, doing snakies down the edge of the road where the gravel was. We were berserk, because it was like we're away from our parents, we're going free. And then we stayed in this pub in Melbourne and all this sort of stuff. We had this pretty wild weekend. Then we met up with a bunch of older friends in that were down there on street bikes, and we did this big. That's right. It was a it would have been December, because it was a thing they still do nowadays. I think it was originally started by like the bikies, but then it just grew to like anyone on a motorcycle was welcome. And you buy a toy, and it's a toy run in December, and you all meet. You do this ride, and then you all meet, and all the toys get donated to like the children's hospitals or poor kids or whatever. Yeah, it was one of those that so we ended up in this big crowd and tour, and we went over the Westgate Bridge and everything like that. And I remember my mate, his KDX was starting to oil up real bad because we were going so slow in the crowd. And he's blowing all this blue smoke. He's revving it, and all the blue smoke's blowing all over these Harley guys. And he's like, oh, shit, I'm going to be in trouble. But they didn't care, man. They didn't care. They were just, yeah. It's funny, man. Bikies, man, not like people think they are, you know. We used to go to a few things just, you know, where there'd be bikey guys and that when we were riding our dirt bikes on the road a lot, you know. And they're just good blokes, you know. If you're not doing the wrong thing, you know, they were just as good a friendly blokes as you'd find everywhere. They just look like they'd hurt you, so, which is kind of the point for those guys, I guess. Yeah,
all brothers when you're like, you know, like on the motorcycle, like when you're riding, you know, you do the little peace sign at the side here, like to say, like, hey, hope you get home, brother. You know.
Yeah.
I'll be riding for a couple of days and not really driving my truck, and then I'll get in my truck and go. I'll see a biker, and I'll start to do it when I'm in my truck. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not on my bike.
Yeah. It's a cool thing, isn't it? It's just an unwritten thing.
Still acknowledgement, but
yeah. I can remember same me and that same mate. So we had some funny adventures. We went to this thing where it was this big. We rode our trail bikes, our like enduro bikes, to this big I forget what it was called, but it was this big street bike get together. And it was mostly Harleys and mostly Harley guys, but there's also a lot of, like, you know, dudes on like old you know, CBs and all that sort of stuff, Kawasaki 900s, Quacker 900s, as we call them, all that sort of stuff. It was a big sort of get together, and we were like, let's just go. And I had, and we were like, you know, 17, 18, and they had these like concrete slabs for burnouts, right? And they're all doing burnouts and they had a band and strippers, and yeah, just use a real, like, your real Harley sort of setup and that sort of thing. And we turned up on our trail bikes and that sort of thing, and we're watching the burnouts, and we're like, oh, we're going to have a go at this, but we're not doing it here. Like, you know, we're too scared to do it there.
Yeah, you don't want to be in the front of the crowd doing it.
Yeah. But because we used to do like burnouts and that anyway, you know. And so we found this spot. Well, I think we found a just like a this like a slab of wood, like a log or something. And I was like, I'll go first, and I'm up there, and I'm, you know, got a burnout gun, I got smoke gun, all that. Well, the XRs, they used to, I don't know if it's just how I had it jetted or whatever, but that bike always used to drip a little fuel out the breather when so it set it on fire. So I didn't know. I'm there like, this is cool, and the back wheel's on fire, right? Because it's like, you know, and I can see all the smoke coming out, but I just thought it was tire smoke, and I'm there, and I was like, and people are starting to watch, and there's Harley blokes are like fuck yeah, man, this is cool. And the next minute, my mate, he's a really big guy, he just picked up the bike, probably, I don't know, by the back guard or the swing arm or whatever, and lifted me off and like wheeled me away from this log that was on fire. And he's like, dude, your fucking bike's on fire. And the Harley guys are like cheering, yeah, man, that's it. Like all this sort of stuff. I don't know. They probably tipped beer on it to put it out or whatever. And the back tire smoking. And I'm thinking, geez, I'm glad I've got a back tire to ride home, because we were like hours from home, man. You know, yeah, funny, man. There's a lot of wild shit we got up to when we were young blokes. Yeah, we didn't have motocross to race, man, but we still did a lot of funny things on dirt bikes.
Very funny.
That's it, man. Dude, who was your teenage crush, man? So who was the poster on Curt's bedroom wall, man? Like, so like I always say, mine was
that's a different story. No, only old people will get it, but it's Marsha Brady, you know, from the Brady Bunch.
Dude, that's awesome. I love it. Martian Brady. That's it, man. That's yeah. Because
I
I
had a
think
full crush on her.
cool, man. I love it. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, I could picture that for sure, man. Yeah, yeah. Well, I remember we used to watch the Brady Bunch. Like it was probably already a 10-year-old show when we got it. But yeah. Yeah, man. No, I get that. Like I
And
always
then
reference Kelly Bundy was mine. I was too embarrassed to. I would have been too embarrassed to have a poster on my
I
wall because of what Mum would say. But if
yeah.
I wasn't too embarrassed, that would be the poster that was on the wall. So
Yeah, and then in my second childhood, it was Kirsten Dunst.
oh yeah,
Oh, she's just hot.
she's the Spider-Man chick. Is that she
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the Spider-Man girl? Okay, the redhead. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I
I
really
don't know her super well. What else has she been in apart from Spider-Man?
like
What else did she do?
the one with Jim Carrey where he the Spotless Mind, whatever the blah blah blah, the Spotless Mind with Jim Carrey. She's in that. She's classic in that one too. Those are the two movies I like her in. But I just had a full crush on her when like about 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. I know her. Yeah, both my kids just fucking love Spider Man. They love Spider Man. So yeah, I know a bit about her for that. Yeah.
Yeah, one of my friends knows like his mom or something. So I'm like, oh, I'm like only separated from Kirsten Dunst by like maybe 4 people. So you're saying I've got a chance.
There's still a chance. Yeah, that's it. So you're telling me there's a chance. Yeah, cool, cool, cool. Dude, question I haven't asked too many people. I've asked a couple of people, but tell me about yourself at high school, man. So, like, I wasn't this sort of confident person I am now at high school, man. I was pretty shy, I'm pretty quiet, and that sort of thing. So, what were you like, man?
Well, first of all, I was a stoner. Full stoner. But I always seemed to be the guy that could kind of like bridge the different groups. Like I was friends with the jocks, I was friends with like the Chicanos, I was friends with the what we called socias. I don't know. That's like it's not even really even an American word. It's like outdated word. Like all the people that were like overly social or straight, we called them socias. I was friend with the stoner crowd. I was kind of like friends with everybody. And then I don't know. I I was like really didn't do sports because I was racing then, so I didn't want to like. As soon as I got done with high school, I would go straight home and ride my dirt bike right out of the garage. You'd go
Yeah.
home, put on my helmet. That's usually all I put on. Just put on a helmet, maybe gloves and goggles, and just start ripping around in the hills behind our house till it like got dark, basically. But I kind of lived in a pretty unique place where we kind of lived in this, for Southern California, kind of semi-rural, and to get to school was like about 2 miles. So in the morning we would ride our little Schwinn Stingrays, and the first mile was all through this place called Wilderness Park, and it was all like fire roads and trails. So we would like moto to school. This was like before mountain bikes and like when BMX was first starting, and we would rip down that hill, and then coming home we'd have to slog and go up. But dude, I was like fully into motocross even that early in high school. So, and then like I told you, like when I was a senior, I was already doing the cartoon for the motocross newspaper. So I was just like, and doing the Super 8s at that age, and did motocross. That's like that's all I was obsessed with. So
Cool, man. Cool. Yeah.
and
Sorry, and
and girls.
oh, of course, man. Yeah, yeah. Were you confident talking to girls back then? Like,
Uh, I what did I had the Riz, like the charisma,
they had the Riz.
but but I was still not so much. I wasn't a player, but I wasn't super shy.
Hmm.
So
It's funny, man. People wouldn't believe it nowadays, or anyone that's known me sort of just as an adult. But man, I tell my kids, and they think it's funny, especially my daughter. She thinks it's so funny that I wouldn't have spoken more than 2 words to a girl that wasn't related to me my whole life, I reckon, until I started going out and drinking. So and I say to my daughter, I was like, the Big Bang Theory, Raj on the Big Bang Theory, where he can't talk to girls unless he drinks. Right. I say I was like Raj until I was like, it's probably when I didn't really get, like my dad was pretty strict and pretty wary of me because I think he knew what sort of a bloody bugger I was going to be once I got some freedom, and I never went to any sort of parties or pubs or anything until I was about 17, and then and I would start sneaking drinks when I was 17, and I could talk to girls like straight away then. And I was like, but then it's funny, it's like sort of after that I could talk to girls sober as well, because I think just that alcohol gave me that Dutch courage, as we say, to talk to girls. And then after that, I was pretty smooth after that. Like I sort of hit me straps, So, but it's funny, yeah, for years now, like the entire time at high school, man, I never would have spoken to a girl. I might have given her a 1-word answer if she asked me a question. I would have given her a yes or a no. That's about it. Like I was so shy with that sort of thing. I was pretty shy in general. I would mask it around my friends and that sort of thing with humor and that sort of thing. But I was actually very shy and a lot of anxiety, man, in those years, and which I've spoken about before, which is something I've had my whole life, man. But
and what do you call it? Dutch courage?
Dutch courage is a term that I don't know if that's an Aussie one. I don't know where that comes from, but that is, you have a couple of drinks, get up some Dutch courage to talk to a girl or
I've heard that term. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know why Dutch. I don't know. Australia had a lot of Dutch immigrants after the war, so maybe that might have its roots in that. Like after World War II, Australia had a huge amount of Dutch, German, Greek, and Italians come here, which was actually fantastic for our country. So, a bit like you guys had a lot of European immigrants after the First World War, we got a lot after the Second World War. So, yeah.
Yeah, the girl I had a crush on in high school, later on in life, like kind of, she was super hot, right? Blonde, super hot, and then later on in life, she like came back into my life and I started dating, and it was just like, what do you call it? Ben Stiller,
Oh, yeah.
She was all like still hot when she's older, single for some reason, doing pretty well. And it was just like that.
Like something about Mary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
The super hot chick comes back in his life that, he knew in high school.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even know any in high school, man. Like I said, because there's lots of good looking girls, but yeah, I didn't know any of them because I was too scared to talk to them.
Well, I did California, so
yeah, that's it. Yeah, California's known for the blonde girls, man.
Yeah,
which is odd. Like in Australia, man, they're all different. Hair colors are just kind of everywhere. Everywhere is just a mixture. Like nowhere's known. But I know, our friend Steve, Deepwood Steve. He's from like New England area, and I remember he was telling me how him and his mates wanted to go to California because they loved the blonde girls, and we're up in New England, there wasn't a lot of blonde girls, which is kind of amazing to me. But yeah, that's obviously was a thing. Yeah.
But in California, it's like a cliche. I mean, there's, people with all kinds, there's brunettes and redheads and lots of Chicanas. Obviously, they almost all have black hair. And I grew up like with, I wouldn't say a lot, but enough different people in our whole thing. So, but the blonde's like a cliche.
Yeah. That's it, man. That's it. Hey, what other interests do you have, man? So like you've got your obviously moto, obviously mountain bikes, and obviously you're into nature and birds and all that sort of stuff. Is there
Right.
anything else, man?
Well, I don't mountain bike as much anymore because I got lazy and started just riding the DRZ so much. It's like, I like to lap swim, which is something new that I just started like kind of doing after I got in my injury, and now I love it. Like I used to surf, and I don't do that, but that's kind of fun. And I like reading about reading about like the origins of man, like the super old like Neanderthal and Australopithecus. I can't even pronounce it, but just how people started, because to me it's fascinating that, you know, what our origins of humans are. And they don't know that. There's a lot they don't know, but it's pretty, I like reading about that. I like reading in general, drawing, riding bikes, hanging out. I'm sure I'm forgetting a few things. Hanging out with my kids. I have adult kids and they're like my best friends. So that's important to me.
Yeah. How many kids?
I have 4. Yeah.
Nice. What? How old are they?
I always have to 31, 34, 38 and 37 and 39.
Nice,
They're all boys.
nice.
A girl. And I have one grandson. Of course, that's my favorite thing in life, but I live about 3 hours away, so I get to see him enough, but never enough, you know.
Yeah.
Cool. Out of all that kids, like, you know, I have one grandson, which is fine, but kids classic.
Yeah. I can't wait for grandkids, man. So, yeah.
Granddad.
Yeah. No, I'll be the granddad that I'll be the fun one. You know, I'll be the one where there's like, oh, what are you going to do today? You know, like, because I was kind of like that as the dad as well. You know, like, yeah, they'll get to experience some fun when they come hang out with me. That's for sure. Yeah,
Right.
Absolutely. do something crazy.
You've got 2 kids, Steve? 2
kids, man. Yeah. 2 kids, 17 and 21. So we're a good ways off grandkids, but yeah, it'll be good when it happens. Yeah, so
age.
That's for sure, man. Yeah. Question I haven't asked in a while, man, is the road trip question that I've asked. That is like who so a road trip, your sort of your dream road trip. So who's in the car and where are you going and what are you listening to?
Well, I'm listening to The Outside Gate. That's probably and Main Event Moto. You know what I like for music is actually I like dub reggae, so I like a lot of that. And then my favorite guy recently, this country guy named Paul Coffin. And I don't know, I don't travel that much, you know, but this year it seems like I've gone a lot of places. And I went down to Baja for a whole month, which was super fun, stayed in one town. But I think the road trip I would like to do is drive all the way from here to like the Southeast, because I've never been in like Florida, Louisiana. I'd like to go through Texas and visit Texas. So I'd like to do that. And if I could pick anyone to do that road trip with, it'd be my kids, actually, because they're kind of like my best mates. Yeah, they're my like. That's who I would want to do it with, and maybe not the grandkid. I don't know.
Yeah, man, that's cool.
I would do. Yeah, that's who I'd probably want to go with. Either that or play some AC/DC, pick up Aussie Steve at the airport, and go to Redbud.
Yeah, that sounds good, man. That does sound good, man. Yeah. A road trip with me involves a lot of loud music, man. So that's it. That's always a warning for anyone that's got a road trip with me. Is like, you know, if you don't like that, you'll need some earplugs. You know? So, yeah, that's how I like to roll. Yeah. Absolutely. Like I like to make a road trip into a fucking rock concert, man. Like I'll plan the fucking, you know, like it's just a good time when I get, because I love music, man, and you know, I can't just listen to. If I could listen to loud music like every minute of every day, I would, but you can't, of course.
Right.
But when I'm in the car, especially if I'm in the car on my own, I was like, it's fucking cranked, and I'm listening to. I'll be, you know, what album I haven't listened to for ages, and it's just the job's on, you know, so. And of course, knowing me, I'll be, you know, I'll be singing along most of the time and that sort of thing as I, you know. And,
that's called karaoke.
Karaoke. Oh yeah, plenty of that. Yeah.
R.
Yeah. Karaoke. Yeah. That's it. The you know, except you can't read the words, man, when you're driving and that sort of thing. So you get the words wrong, but that's okay. That's still okay. Yeah.
I'm terrible at that, actually. Even songs I play well, I'll still mess up the lyrics.
Yeah, man. It's funny, man. Like it's a funny thing. Like you see videos and that of where people have got the words to songs wrong like their whole life, and then they're like,
right.
what the fuck? Like I still find things that I've been singing my whole life, and I've never bothered to look up the lyrics, and then you see the lyrics and you're like, what the fuck? Is that what it actually is? And I've been singing the wrong stuff a whole lot. It's there's a lot of really funny ones, you know, especially songs from when you're a kid and you stuffed up the words and then you just keep singing the same words, you know. It's who's your favorite band, man? Who's your absolute number one?
I mean, this is probably the Beatles, as lame as that sounds.
But that's not lame, man. No.
As a kid, that influenced me so much because I was like probably like 5 or 6 when they came out. And like, unless you were there, it's kind of hard because like all of a sudden that was like a big deal, you know? And I remember being a little kid, seeing him on Ed Sullivan's show. And I wanted to grow my hair long. And so they probably had the biggest, like, you know, influence. And I've always, but as I've gotten older, I kind of see they seem a little cheesy, but then I don't know, you hear their arrangements and listen to their lyrics. It's pretty cool. A lot of people just don't like them, but I'm pretty proud to say they were my favorite.
Yeah. My dad was a big Beatles fan, you know, and I had was interested. Mike Webb was on the show there a while back, and he was telling me about how the Webb brothers went to see On Any Sunday and how that changed their life. And
right.
And when I asked him about music, he said that it was a very similar experience. Him and his brothers went to see one of the Beatles' first movies, or their first movie, or whatever that was called.
Help, probably.
Yeah.
Or Hard Night.
I think it was Hard Day's Night. Yeah, I think that was it. And they were just like, wow, you know, and it changed their life and led them into be rock and roll fans, you know.
Yeah. No, it's hard to explain the like the social influence they had too, not just the musical influence, but like it kind of ushered in the whole like hippie lifestyle, you know, and everything was changing back then. And because I mean, I'm like 67. I just turned 67. So like I was just a little kid when that all was started. So I kind of grew up with all that, you know. I was a flower child.
That's it. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's it.
Old kid. Like my mom and dad divorced when I was pretty young. And so like we didn't have a lot of supervision, and I was the oldest one out of 4 of my brothers and sisters. And so we had pretty much the run of the place, dude. We were pretty wild little kids. I would call them my free range kid.
Free range kid. Yeah, no, I've heard that term used a lot actually. Yeah, free range kids. Yeah,
pretty good, I think, from back then.
Yeah, man.
But I saw a lot of concerts. Like I was super into going to concerts when I was younger. I mean, going to live music is another one of my hobbies. You know, like I saw that Paul Cawthon, this guy. this year. I got to go see Willie Nelson, which is like pretty cool. I saw Primus, which I used to like them, but I kind of feel like they haven't progressed, you know.
Yeah, I'm jealous, man. Obviously I'm very, very jealous, very envious of the moto scene in the States, but also of the live music, you know, like Australia has in the cities of Australia, each city has its own really good little live music scene with little bands and that sort of thing. But
right.
I'm not deep enough into music to know the little bands. Like moto takes up too much of my life. So my music knowledge is it's limited. Even though I love music, my knowledge is limited because there's only so much room in my brain for all this moto stuff. The music knowledge isn't going to stick as well. But I know a lot about the bands that I love, and I listen to the old favorites over and over, you know. But, you know, when some of my favorite bands come to Australia, could be decades apart, man, you know, and things like that. And,
right.
you know, some of my favorite bands I've never seen. And then also, you know, because when they come, I couldn't afford it or, you know, whatever, life gets in the way and you can't get to that one chance to see them in Melbourne. And then even there's some bands where I haven't gone because I couldn't get anybody to go with me, and I didn't want to go on my own. But I tell you what, next time
that wouldn't stop me.
Yeah, it's not going to stop me anymore, man. Like, because my daughter loves my music, so I've got, you know, and so, you know, like next time one of my favorite bands comes out, she'll be coming to the concert with me. So yeah, which is cool. She likes old school music. She more than the new music, which is pretty cool. So that's something that I've got right. So, you know, that's the influence of that loud music on the road trip with Dad when they're sitting in the back seat.
One of my times as a parent was I was driving with my youngest son. He was probably like about 10 or 11 at the time. And we were driving somewhere and I had the radio playing and he goes, that sounds like Tom Petty doing a cover of Johnny Cash. Dude, and I just pulled over the car to the side and I go, I love you so much. Because I felt so proud at that moment that he knew that. And then I kind of like reflected on me, like you said, like, you know, that was a big parent moment for me. That I even had to pull over the car to tell him that, you know, like that was a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. It reminds me of a funny story, man. So this one is probably actually, well, to me it's just funny. To some might say it's a bad parenting moment.
Yeah,
my little bloke, he was such a funny kid, and we I'm a lot better nowadays, but I used to be prone to getting a bit ragey on the roads, you know, like not like stupid jumping out and belting anyone or whatever, but I would be pretty vocal.
Yeah.
And we're driving along, and I'm pretty sure my wife was there, or maybe it was just me with the little bloke in the back seat. And someone did something stupid in front of us, and I've let rip, you know, like fucking hell, you know, and I'm right into it, you know.
Right.
And then I've overtaken this guy, or they've got out of the way or whatever. And then we're cruising along, and I'm slowly catching up to another car. And then my young bloke pipes up and he goes, "Fussy hell, him too, Dad. Fussy hell, him too." I just couldn't stop laughing. Fussy, he said, "Fussy hell, him too." He wanted me to yell at this other guy as well, because he just thought it was funny when Dad, you know. Yeah. So he didn't even, he wasn't even probably connecting that I was angry. It was just like, Dad's funny because he's making lots of noise and it's all funny and exciting, you know. Yeah, fussy hell, him too, Dad. And I'm like, nah, dude, this guy's not doing anything wrong. He's fine. I don't need to yell at him. Yeah, it was awesome. And obviously my kids both learnt to swear pretty young, and I'm definitely the one to blame there, but I learnt to swear pretty young from my dad. So it's like cussing, as you guys say, cussing is a lot more acceptable in Australia. So.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, like I said, like when I knew Australians, dude, they were, especially when they talk about women, I'd be like, oh my God, but it was like fun as hell.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's just the way, just
Hey,
the
I
way
want
you grow up like that.
to our road trip question. You, me, and producer Joe in Redbud.
Going to Redbud. Yeah, that'd be that'd be good, man. Yeah. You have to get producer Joe out of the back cave,
Yep.
with his balaclava on. I was talking to producer Joe a couple of days ago there too. Yeah, he's a very good man.
Oh yeah, thanks for filling in on the podcast main event the other day. That was
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I loved your story today. I read it this morning.
Oh, the story. Yeah, yeah.
A good writer.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love writing. Like I really do. Like I said on main event the other day, man.
Yeah.
I love it. So I guess for listeners of my show who don't know, I'm writing articles for main event now, so which is pretty cool. Like I used to write articles for Moto Limited when those boys were up and running, and I didn't really want to do a writing thing or anything to the outside gate,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm honestly, it's not a thing I want to care to make money out of or anything. I literally do love writing, and I like it to go to an audience so they can appreciate it. So,
have you ever heard what you know who Brett Smith is from We Went Fast?
Yep.
He does those audio versions of his stories. His stories are like super long and in depth, but he does like you can just listen to it. That'd be pretty good. Something that you'd be good at, probably.
Oh yeah. Just I know. Weed does it.
Yeah.
Just
So
yeah.
Yeah.
You just read your story. Yeah. Read the story for people, for the time poor folks that don't have time to read. But one of the things I was saying to the main event guys when I said, hey, do you want some, written articles, was there is a bit of talk out there that the written word's starting to sort of be cool again, like bit like how vinyl records came back, like it's sort of, writing sort of maybe becoming cool again. So it might be a handy skill that I've got there, because it's funny, man. Yeah. It's
I'm a big book guy.
Yeah, I love reading, man. Yeah, I love reading, and I think the books you read too influence your style of writing, and definitely the biggest influence to my style of writing is your old mate Super Hunky, and also Tom Webb. Like, that's like I used to love reading both those guys. Amazing, yeah.
My articles I wrote for MXA, because I definitely had a pretty raw writing style, we'll say.
Yeah. I'd like to read them, man. You should dig them up and send them to me. That'd be cool.
Mostly mine were like about races or something, rather than telling the story.
Yeah, I'm big on the story. I did do some just race reports and that as well, but it's sort of, and I can do that fine. Like it's fairly easy writing the race reports now, I suppose. But I like to be able to tell a story of an event, which I can usually do that pretty well if I go to an event. I just, take it in and off. There's a storyline to a story comes to me and that sort of thing. It's funny, man. When I can remember when I left high school, I was lucky enough that my dad was going to give me a job, but I had to pass what we call middle school, which you guys would call 10th grade, I think. I had to pass that, and I was like 15, and he's like, you can't come to, if you don't pass this year, because I'd just been mucking around the whole time, not taking it seriously. If you don't pass, you got to repeat next year, and you can't come and work for me. So I had to buckle down and pass, and I was failing all my English classes. So I had to buckle down. And I remember when I finally got across the line, like school year had actually finished, and I took assignments in to meet my English teacher and give them to her and that sort of thing to pass, and all this sort of stuff. And And so I used to, I was a pretty terrible student, but I remember once one teacher tried to get me to do this class called, I don't know, it was like an extra English class that was for people that were like, they thought were good writers. But I just wasn't about it. I was just like, what the hell is she sending me to this for? Like, you know, and I was there with all these studious people that are all getting A's and all that. And I'm just this sort of bit of a fucking punk that she sends to this class. And of course, I played up and got kicked out of that class the first time, you know. It was like called extra English or something, you know.
Extra work, I'm out.
and she ripped through me like, I sent you to this because I thought you had some talent and this sort of thing and all that sort of thing. And anyway, all those years later, maybe she was right. So, you know, because usually what I write, people like, you know. I know some people probably don't like it, which is okay. But yeah, I usually get pretty good feedback about writing stuff. So that's a funny thing.
Yeah, I have a couple that I've written some blogs that now I can on my website, go to on my downupdesign.com website. There's a couple of blogs that are about moto, and the one I haven't really written is about the time. I don't know. This is a Southern California thing. You know what a Bob's Big Boy is? It's like it's a restaurant, and it's kind of associated with cruiser culture, but is these restaurants called Bob's Big Boy, and so they had this cartoon character Bob, and it was a statue in front of all these restaurants. They had these statues. It's in Austin Powers, and one of them he sees it floating in space, but it's more of a SoCal thing. But anyway, the one I haven't written is like about when I stole one at the USGP.
Well, that sounds like a good story.
Yeah, I got to write it just right, but you know, like here I'm just being blunt, but like I stole it because they were catering at the Carlsbad USGP, and they had all these somewhat smaller Bob's Big Boy statues on their catering trucks, and in those days, like, you know, people used to run across the track nilly-willy, like even during big GPs back then. But the other thing is, like, the minute the race ended, people went berserk. They stormed the pits. They stole all the banners. They were grabbing souvenirs left and right. And so I knew during all that ruckus that no one would be paying attention. So I had already scoped it out, dude. And I had the rope undone and everything, dude. Me and my friend with his van stole a bit. Bob's Big Boy. I had it for years.
So what was it, like a fiberglass statue, or was it an inflatable, or?
I'm not joking. Like, I don't know. The head was, I'm going to, like, you know, big. I think the thing was like 5 foot tall easily. The ones in front of the restaurants, I think, were so heavy, they were pretty hard. But this one was like lighter. I'll send you a picture after we're done talking.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Now I got to write this story. I'll put it. But I have some pretty funny blogs on my website. I try to make it fun. I'm only doing my so it can be fun.
Yeah. That's it, man. Well, I kept you a fair while, man. We might wrap things up.
You and me could hang out forever.
I know we could, man. Yeah, I know we could. But,
we're mates.
That's it, mates. Yeah. The last couple of things I do on the show, man, is you give me your best Aussie accent.
I don't want to be, what do you call it? A bogan?
A bogan, yeah. Give me a bogan accent. So if you want to know what a bogan accent is, it sounds pretty much like me.
I just know that Aussies will go, "Hey, you fucking cunt," and that he don't like Sheila's.
That's it, man. Yeah, no, that all sounds about right. Yeah, you definitely hung out with a few Aussies. That's it. Yeah. It's funny. Yeah.
I heard. I'll do one more. Hey, we gotta get up in the morning before a sparrow fight and get out in the surf before it gets windy or something. A sparrow fart?
Sparrow's fart, yeah. Sparrow's fart is, you know, because a sparrow's fart is just, you know, like, first thing you do in the morning is you piss and you fart, you know, is when you get up. So that's where it basically just means when the birds are up, when the birds start tweeting, sparrows fart. That's, yeah.
Because I remember one time someone goes, "Yeah, yeah, we got to get up late and get up early for the sparrows fart and get out in the sift. And I'm like, what's a sparrow's fart? You know,
Yeah.
he told me. And anyways, yeah.
Another one that I love that I use pretty often, and I honestly do pretty often, is if a first thing in the morning thing, especially definitely if you're camping, is called a dingo's breakfast, and that a dingo's breakfast is a piss and a good look around. So, so you know, you get out of your swag or your tent or whatever. You know, I usually sleep in a swag. And you know, you scratch your ass and your balls, and you take a few steps, and you have a piss on the dirt or the grass or whatever, and you have a good look around, you know, because you're outside. I even do that. I do that in the backyard pretty often because the dog, our dog, she sleeps inside and that sort of thing, and she's got a doggy door, but she likes you to come out with her, you know, because she's just the sook. She's like, "Are you coming as well?" You know.
Yeah.
And so we'll wander out into the backyard, and she'll pee in the grass, and so will I, and I'll have a good look around. And
yeah,
that's a dingo's breakfast.
That's class. I'll remember that one too.
Yeah. Piss and a good look around. Yeah. All right, man. Hey, right. I reckon how I close up with a bit of Kenny Rogers, man.
I think I can join in.
All right, man. All right, I'll
let you lead because I told you I suck at lyrics.
That's all right, man. Well, we'll if we try and go at the same time, we'll cut in and out. The audio will cut in and out a little bit and that sort of thing. But I'll when I get to the chorus, I'm going to let you take over a bit, hey?
All right.
Right, man. So I handed him my bottle, and he drank down my last swallow. Then he bummed a cigarette and asked me for a light. And the night got deathly quiet, and his face lost all expression. Said, if you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right. You got to know when to hold 'em.
When to fold 'em. Know when to walk away. Know when to run. No.
You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting.
When the day is done.
That's it, man. Curt Evans, my mate, hey? Thank you very much for joining us on the Outside Gate. That's cool, man. You got such an interesting life, and we'll definitely have to do one of these again, man. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Thank you, man. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.